Once you have developed your pieces, how to come up with the right plan, what to do after the opening, that's the main question of today's lesson. It's Journey to Grandmaster, it's time to improve your chess. To improve your chess understanding and to take better strategical decisions during a chess game, you should learn from the best. So today we are going to take a look at the game of the world chess champion Max Euwe, how he managed to take the right decisions during a chess game, and we are going to learn a lot from it. And sometimes it's much more useful than to take a look at the current top guys and how they play chess, because they are strongly influenced by the strongest chess engines. And so if you look into the game, you're trying to understand the human decisions, but in fact it could be just a 35 computer variation where the moves are not that logical, so you don't learn a lot, you can't improve your chess. So let's take a look. Max Euwe played this game as black against Keller. That is a very fancy game and a very strategical one. So let's take a look. d4, knight f6. Euwe was black here, and e6, knight c3, bishop b4, the Nimzo-Indian defense, incredibly popular back in the time, and of course nowadays very solid opening for black, and so many top grandmasters play it and like it, so yeah, definitely worth to consider. e3, that's one of the possible ways for white to continue. The point is to develop the bishop, to bring the knight either to e2, defending this second knight on c3, or just to f3. And black is playing here c5, immediately trying to attack the center. So when you play bishop to b4, you're basically agreeing to the fact that at some point you might exchange this knight. For example, if white plays a3, which happened here, then black is taken on c3. There is no point to go back. That is why you played bishop b4. So you're okay with exchanging the bishop, but you get a lot in response because the pawn structure is damaged now, and you also are ahead in terms of the development, because if you look at the position, white has only moved the pawn so far, whereas black is already developed the knight and are ready for castles. Now black plays b6, bishop goes to d3, and bishop to b7. Notice that this bishop is incredibly strong along this diagonal. f3, so white is trying to block it altogether. Knight goes to c6. Black is already developing all of the minor pieces. That is always the goal, to develop as many pieces as possible, as fast as possible. Knight d2, castles and castles. And here is this moment of strategical decision for black, because all of the minor pieces are developed, the castles is made, the king is safe. So the question is, what do we do here? Do we attack in the center? Do we play d5 and try to fight for the center? Or do we start the attack on the king side and trying to checkmate our opponent because, well, we have the bishop here, some potential? Or do we attack on the queen side and, well, trying to find some weaknesses there? How do we decide that? To understand the right plan, we need to take a look at two things. First of all, the strengths of our position, and second of all, the weaknesses of our opponent's position. Ideally, we should combine it, and that would be our plan. So here we have some potential to play in the center and on the queen side. The king side would be rather difficult because we have our king here and we don't want to weaken it. So we have basically this part of the board, and then how could we use it? Well, let's take a look at our opponent's position. Does he have any weaknesses? Yeah, those c pawns are doubled and potentially a target to attack, because there is no way for white to defend it with a pawn from the side. Because, well, basically the d4 pawn is advanced already, so yeah, it can help. And then the c4 pawn could be an easy target because it's very difficult for white to defend it. So how do we attack it? Always want to put your rooks to the files where it can create some difficulties for your opponent. Usually you prefer the open files because, well, the rook is very active there. But here, if you have a target to attack, that's perfect. So the rook should go to c file. What else could we do? Well, the knight is a problem here because it's not allowing the rook to be active to attack this pawn. Where can we remaneuver this knight? Also, it's blocking our bishop, not allowing the bishop to be very active along the diagonal. Well, the knight can go to a5 and also attack this pawn on c4, adding yet another attacker. And then, of course, to be able to activate our rook, this pawn has to be exchanged, but we don't want to be that fast with this exchange, because that's gonna make the pawn structure of our opponent better. He will not have the double pawns anymore. So we want to do it only in the right time, when we are ready to attack. Once we can win this pawn, then we can bring more pressure to white's camp, and of course yeah, try to be active on the queen side and in the center. And another thing we always want to make sure is to take a look at our opponent's potential plans, because we are not playing chess alone. It's very important to watch out for your opponent's ideas. So for white, it's rather clear because he has so many pawns here in the center, he has so many pieces here, and so the plan is to go all the way in the center and on the king side, because, well, there is a rook supporting those pawns, and it's clear that white is going to attack there. So we have to be prepared for that. How could we do that? Well, what Max Eve thought here, that he can remove this knight, and then he is going to have this f6 pawn to somehow block the whole initiative from white side. And then it's kind of a shield, so we have to defend here, whereas we are going to attack here. So that is basically the strategical plan, and now let's see how he executed it. So he started with the move knight a5, immediately putting some pressure. Notice that also not only the knight and the rook can connect to this attack, but also the bishop at some point might come to a6 and add yet another attacker if it's needed, of course. Otherwise, the bishop is very good along the long diagonal here. White played e4, like I said, trying to attack in the center. Of course, those pawns are very, very strong here. Knight went to e8. Yeah, remember that that was a plan, because likely this pawn is going to e5, opening up this bishop again, starting the attack. So black is saying, well, I'm gonna just go back, and now I could be prepared for that attack. Knight went to g3, yeah, bringing another piece to the attack. C takes d. Now black decided to take it and play rook c8, because it's time to attack, and basically it's not possible for white to save this pawn anymore, because if you play queen to e2, we could bring another attacker. Now we have 3, and there is no way for white to bring another defender, so this is the right moment to exchange the pawns. You can start with rook to c8 move, but then you should be prepared for d5, and then you don't have any way to open this file, so it's important not to miss this opportunity. So black took it and played rook to c8. Now white played f4. So white is okay with sacrificing this pawn, there is nothing to do, but they are saying, well, I'm going to attack here, I'm going to create some threats, and that should compensate the extra pawn. So knight takes c4, f5, white is going all in on the king side. Now we have achieved our goal, we have won this pawn, but the question is, what do we do next? Well, we said we need to put even more pressure on white's position. We have to have some counterplay, because, okay, having an extra pawn is nice, but if you just watch our opponents to be very strong here doing nothing, then we are not going to be successful. So Eva played here f6, first of all, blocking this whole thing altogether, because at some point white might play f6, like e5, f6, and then maybe just give a checkmate. And this way, Eva makes sure that, well, it's not going to be possible for white. Also, this knight can't jump to f5 square now, and we have some potential to add another defender if it's needed. Rook f4, and now white is trying some counterplay. Exactly what we have discussed, you need to create some counterplay. So b5, opening up this diagonal, the queen would be great there, and there is a target to attack. It's always very important to identify some targets to attack, to create some problems for your opponent, because if you don't do it, it's gonna be so simple for him to just continue his attack, not paying attention to what you are doing, because what you are doing is not dangerous for him. So rook h4, white is trying to just give a checkmate basically somehow here. Queen b6, creating a counter threat. So if you just ignore it, it would be problematic for you, because it's a move with a check. It's very, very difficult to ignore it. And also we are attacking the rook. And thanks to the move f6, we have also created some squares for our king to escape. So it's not a checkmate. We can just lose one pawn and then escape with the king. So white decided that it's very important to save this d4 pawn and play the move e5. Now the rook is protecting it, but of course the drawback is that the e5 pawn is going to be lost as the d4 pawn is pinned here. So black played here knight takes e5. White is playing f takes e here, trying to open up this diagonal. Of course, the bishop is going to be very active now. So black decides to just eliminate it, and, well, white will have less attacking pieces. So it's very important when it comes to exchanges to decide which pieces should you exchange and which not. And the criterion for that is to just think about what pieces would be very dangerous for you and what are not. And so this bishop was potentially incredibly dangerous, and that is why black decided to exchange it. Queen takes d3, and now queen takes e6. Well, basically the queen takes h7 was a checkmating threat, because this pawn is controlling the f7 square, so black is eliminating it, and with the queen also creating some threats here. and then the f7 square is available for the king to go. So queen takes h7 happened, king to f7. Now bishop to h6, white is adding another attacker here and, well, trying to create some threats. Although the good thing is this knight on e8 is protecting the g7, so there is no direct threat. Now the question is what to do for black. I would like you to pause the video for a second and try to find the best move. Okay, hopefully you have found it. So, well, if you have thought that we need to play rook c3, that is a very good decision because the rook is going to be very active there, creating some difficulties for white. But what black did is even more amazing because, well, definitely we need to activate this rook somehow. It's very good here along the open file, but it doesn't create any threats yet. So the ideal square would be c2. Now the rook is very, very active, threatening to take on g2, and basically that would be devastating for white. But the problem is the queen is controlling the square. So what do? Well, we notice that we have this rook on f8, which is not doing anything. So why don't we use it to distract the queen? So we play rook to h8. Yes, we sacrifice the rook, and yes, the rook is important, but if it's not doing anything anyway and we can use it to achieve our goal, why can't we just do it? So queen takes h8 and rook c2. Now, rook takes g2 is a tremendously dangerous threat for white, and it's so difficult to cope with it the right way. Only chance for white to survive here was to play d5, sacrificing the pawn, but somehow it's so uncomfortable for black to take it. If you take it with a queen, which seems to be great, then white can just block the whole diagonal, and now there is no rook takes g2 opportunity at all. Moreover, the checkmate in one is a problem here, and there is no way for black to continue the attack. If you take with the bishop, that seems to be much better. Now the bishop is blocking this diagonal for the queen, and that makes a huge difference because after rook d1, rook takes g2, and king f1, you don't have anything to continue this attack. You don't have any penetration squares for this queen to go. And what happened in the game is white played rook to c1, which seems logical too, but after rook takes g2, king to f1, well, remember you can never go to h1 because of this bishop, and a lot of discover checks like rook takes g3. King to f1 is the only move, but now queen to b3. Now you see the difference. The bishop is not creating a problem, and then there is no way to stop the checkmate. White played king e1, but queen f3, and the checkmate is unstoppable, so white resigned here. Now that you know more about taking the strategical decisions in chess, the question is how do you develop the pieces the right way in the first place, so then you have a solid foundation for the right plan. And Paul Morphy in this video helps you to find that out with his beautiful masterpiece.